Good afternoon from Cape Town. Good morning in Bogota in Colombia. Thank you very much for joining us, Vice Minister Julian Guerrero.
Hello, Sean. Pleasure to be with you.
So this series is run by World Travel Market London and World Tourism Forum Lucerne. And we're focusing on biodiversity and tourism. And as we all know, tourism needs biodiversity to survive, and biodiversity needs tourism to survive and the important revenue. You come from a country with a recent history of conflict, but you've turned it into a success story for adventure-based tourism and nature-based tourism. So maybe I can start by asking you, what really makes Colombia unique today as an adventure and biodiversity-based tourism destination?
Thank you, Sean, again for the invitation, and hello to everybody that is here with us today. Well, Colombia has moved from being a problem country to being a solution country. And the eyes of the world, and Latin America, and particularly in the United States, are focused on Colombia because Colombia's biodiversity is one, if not the most extreme and rich in the world. And we want to reap the benefits of that. Colombia is a country that has five very distinct regions: the Caribbean, the Pacific, the Andes, the Orinoco, the Eastern Plains, as we call them, and the Amazon region. And we see that tourism, even though it's a risk for biodiversity, it's also a huge opportunity to make use of it to preserve that nature. Tourists have been pouring in Colombia to get to know these places that were out of reach of tourists for a long time, but that now have been open. And there are a whole variety of tourism experiences that you can have in Colombia, starting with bird watching, for example, which in Colombia is impressive because we are the country with the highest number of birds in the world.
So look, we know that communities play a very important role, travelers play an important role. We need leadership from industry and the private sector, but where you sit in government as a policymaker, what are you doing to create the right framework to allow the industry to flourish, but still conserve your natural assets?
We have been working very strongly in this regard in sustainability. We're actually right about to publish the first sustainable tourism policy of Colombia. It will be issued in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And we have researched all around the world the best practices. And I can honestly tell you without modesty that this might be the best sustainable tourism policy in the world, or at least in the region. And we address issues like climate change, the use of renewable energy resources, the administration of the water resource, the disposal of liquid and solid residues, and of course, and very importantly, the protection of Colombia's biodiversity. We're also presenting, and we are now discussing in Congress, a bill that has as one of its main components the issue of sustainability. And we create incentives for the investments in protection of the environment associated with tourism, as well as increasing the sanctions when tourism operators don't comply with sustainability rules, just as an example.
It's wonderful to hear that many destinations that where we had over tourism are talking about building back better, but you're talking about building back right for the first time and doing it right from the outset, and not repeating the mistakes in many parts of the world as a relatively new destination.
Yes, absolutely. Just to give you another interesting example that I would like to mention is that, you cannot protect what you do not love, and you cannot love that which you don't understand and know well. So we're also about to publish in a week's time a field guide training manual for guides, the sort that you find in South Africa that for Gaza, I remember, has published. Well, we have created this manual to make use of the talent that guides and people have here to interpret and explain to travelers with a science-based information, but with a nice storytelling all that richness in terms of biodiversity that Colombia has. It's going to be published in Spanish and English, and it will be available and free for everybody.
We would love to share that on our platform as well. If I can ask you a final question. COVID-19 pandemic led to a slowdown in tourism in many parts of the world. Those that rely too heavily on international tourism are now saying, let's build domestic tourism. And we also have a new traveler, looking for authentic, cultural, natural experiences. How do you see yourselves dealing with the fallout of this crisis? And how does that impact your planning going forward?
Yes, well, of course, the pandemic has been a tragedy worldwide for tourism, but we see this also as an opportunity. We do not want to recover the tourism, strictly speaking, the tourism that we had in January this year. We think that this is a big opportunity to reimagine, recreate, reinvent the tourism of the future. I don't like that the dilemma between the international against the domestic and the focus on the domestic. We should not close our borders and try to just focus on national tourism. We want the borders open, and we wanted tourism to be done with responsibility. We have designed here in Colombia protocols, biosafety protocols, but in addition to that, we created a biosecurity stamp, a seal that is given not by the government, by an independent third party, the conformity evaluation organizations like SGS, like Bureau Veritas, TUV Rhineland, that sort of the organizations that have the knowledge to do it. And it has proven to be a success. All the major airlines in Colombia have already adopted it, the major hotel chains, airports. There are more than 2,000 approximately companies that have already adopted or are in the process of implementing that stamp. So we are focusing on responsible, good quality tourism, protecting the safety of workers and of course travelers. And with that, we think that Colombia has the full potential, because Colombia is a rather big or large country. So I think that the trend will be for a tourism that suppose the meeting of less number of persons. And that's exactly what Colombia has to offer.
So beautiful to hear a story focused on doing it for the right reasons, of balance, responsibility, and resilience. So thank you very much for sharing your insights with us today. And we look forward to seeing you not only virtually, but also personally at the next World Travel Market London and at one of our think tanks at World Tourism Forum in Lucerne. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sean. And I look forward to seeing you too, hopefully very soon.
Thank you, Minister.